All right, I'm gonna give you guys an opportunity to follow along while I'm gonna do the first timer's attempt at body work, which I really wasn't hoping to have to do during this project, but here we are. So here's the panel. It's almost ready to come off. It's hanging by a thread, so I wanted to do the unboxing, so to speak, on video, but I'll talk about how I got to this point. You can see this panel's got a pinch weld here, across the top, down the side, and it kind of comes to a triangle down there at the bottom. And so what I did was clean back all of the paint and crap that was covering up where the pinch welds are, and I kind of felt with my fingers to find a pinch weld and used an auto punch to punch it, and then went in and basically everywhere I could get to pretty easily with these welds. I used this really cheap, I think I got it off Amazon or something, this spot weld cutter. Pretty cheap, comes with a bunch of these bits. They're reversible, so you get both sides. Works great. Moderate pressure, very low speed seems to work the best. I used some cutting fluid, and man, it went really quickly. And then for those ones that I couldn't really reach right here, there's some spot welds back here that you can't kind of get in there. So what I did, based on, I forget, somebody's online video said to try this. Used a carbide burr, just again a cheap carbide burr set off of Amazon or something. Popped it in there, and I was able to get in and just dig down and cut out those holes. And then the thing that, man, it really made a quick work of it was this panel knife by Steck. And what you can do is it has a chisel end on it. You can kind of get the chisel, hit it with a hammer, beat the crap out of it with a hammer, and then kind of go down and just basically take the hammer and beat it. And as long as you've got the spot weld pretty close, this is going to go right through it. So man, I wailed on this thing, and it's awesome. So having the right tools definitely made a difference. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the lights here and then pull the panel off, and we'll get a sense for just how bad it is in there. Got one more spot weld. Doesn't want to let go. There we go. All right, so now we can see that's what it looked like behind. A good amount of rust. That's what we were seeing from the outside. Yeah, a lot of rust in there, so I think we made the right decision. I don't think I'm going to try to repair this piece. They sell this piece, reproduction part, so I'll probably just order it pretty cheap, like 50 bucks. And then try to put the light in here a little bit better. There we go. So now we can kind of see down in there, you know, there's some surface rust up here, not too bad. That brown stuff on this edge is just kind of the primer. But down in there, I had already kind of pulled out just handfuls of organic matter that was just sitting down in there. And it was just collecting water and setting in there and just corroding the heck out of it. So you can see it's kind of rusty in there, and if you kind of look, you could see back in there, that's the rocker. And then that is where I'd picked at it on the outside, so we can already see that there's some rust. So it looks to me like I'm gonna need to make a patch panel and at least try to address that right there. I really don't want to have to replace the whole rocker, which would basically mean I had to jig the car up and take the whole thing apart. So we'll see what we can do to repair the really bad stuff and do some rust neutralizer on the stuff that's not too bad. We'll probably have to make a replacement piece for that right there. This piece that you can see the holes in, they don't sell just this panel. It comes with a whole rocker, and so I'm really trying to avoid taking the car apart. Anyway, so I'll see what I can do, clean some stuff up, maybe make some patch panels, and take another video. After some assessment, cleaning it up a little bit, I'm gonna just do a quick shot here on the plan of attack. So we've got, as I said, there was a bunch of organic matter that had kind of come down here and been resting in there and was just getting moist and damp and rotting away on the inside, and that's what we were seeing on the outside. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is, they don't make this panel by itself. It's a huge component made with the rest of the rocker panel. So what I'm gonna try to do is come across, cut along this line right here, remove that whole thing. Hopefully I can get it off of this inner wall and remake this piece and that piece as one piece, and then weld it back in. And then I'll probably come back through here and take a piece of that sheet and try to put that together. I'm not going to try to make this and that all as one piece. I also need to add a little extension right here. So that's the plan of attack for that. With this, when I got behind it, it wasn't just this kind of little area. This whole kind of lower rocker rail in here is pretty pitted and rusty. So I'm going to try to take, basically trying to walk the thin line of taking enough to get all the rust out of there, but not so much that I'm having to get up into these contours, which would be tough for me to make. So what I'm going to do is, you can kind of see actually that there's a pinch weld right here. I'm going to try to liberate that from the rest of the rocker. And there's a natural cut right here. There's a little flap that bends over with a couple of pinch welds. I'll get those out with a carbide burr or something and pull that flap away, cut this up through here, and that should get me to solid metal. This is a little rusty behind here, but not too bad. And again, it's a contour. I don't really want to have to remake that. So I'm going to cut right down here, and then I'll take this as a template and remake that piece. So I have this piece with a couple of bends to make. I have this piece with a bend to make, and this strip right here. And once we get this out of the way, we can kind of get a better look. I know that there's a bunch of acorns and crap down here in the rocker I need to clean out regardless. So that's the plan. The first step to getting out of a hole that you put yourself in is to stop digging. But I think I'm past that point. You can see that I've cut off the pieces that I had talked about cutting off. This piece right here, and this piece right here, they came off. I really was struggling to find the pinch welds just because of the amount of rust. You couldn't find them. So in this case, I found a couple of them, and then I came behind it with the panel knife, and I guess the saying is true, with great power it's great responsibility. So I ended up ripping into this inner rocker rail with the pallet knife because I had missed this this pinch weld. Also, same thing here, really ripped into the metal. That was a mistake. And I would be more angry about that with myself, but now that I've taken these panels off, I can see that this inner rocker rail is pretty much gone as well. I mean, right here, this is where the stuff was sitting, and so the outer rocker rail, outer rocker panel was getting rusty, and this is quite rusty as well. Now this is like 16 gauge. This is thick stuff, so structural. So if I'm in here, I guess I got to keep digging. So I've got some lines in here. This is actually pretty solid because it wasn't exposed to being sat next to the wet stuff. In here, there's a bunch of junk and crap in this channel, but it actually feels pretty solid in there. So again, I've said this numerous times, hoping that the next step will be the last step towards the bottom of the hole. But I am going to come in and cut right here, cut right down this edge, and then kind of come up here at an angle. This is kind of almost where the floorboard is, so I have to be careful about where I go with that, and take this whole panel out. And then the plan is to replace this with 16 gauge. Luckily, this is essentially a flat piece, so I don't have to do any bends. I just have to cut this profile, set it in there, clean it up. I mean, here's some rust here, but that's a little higher up, and I'm just gonna clean that off and protect that. Weld that in, and then maybe we can start building back out. I'll just show you really quick the piece that went right here. Went kind of like that. You can see after I kind of got it off, you can see how rusty it was back there. So definitely, again, right decision. Then over here, had to fight with this one a little bit. This is the piece here. You can see I really ripped up that tab. Again, the problem was I couldn't find the pinch welds because it was so rusty. So what I ended up having to do is just cut a slot down that flange at the back with the carbide burr. And eventually it released and came loose. So maybe I'll do another video, another clip here in a second, showing what's behind this once I get that cut up. All right, I think I finally found the bottom of the hole. Unfortunately, it looks like there was a small animal that was living in there. You see all that particulate, and that wasn't even in the side that really had all the stuff. The stuff was on this side of that rocker panel, and man, yeah, it was interesting. The All the corrosion was happening on this side of that piece of metal. Back here, it's actually pretty solid. So luckily, that's solid. Up here, down there, solid. The floor of this rocker is solid. So if we look at this piece that came out of there, you can kind of see like it's really bad on this side. But if you flip it over, yeah, it's bad in the middle where it kind of came through. But around the edges, it's looking pretty good. So I think I've finally come to an end of cutting the cancer out, and now I can start the tedious task of putting it all back together.